Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Welcome to Innovate or Die. I'm really excited about this episode in particular. Why? Because it's all about how to innovate like a futurist in order to anticipate what our customers demand. And why this is so exciting is that it's really going to enable you to think of things that your competitors just haven't thought about. So if you want to decimate your competition by being ahead of the trend, then you really have to stick around. And one of the reasons why I'm super excited to talk to you about the futurist as well is that the futurists are very big picture thinkers. These are the guys that are really good at coming up with commercial insights. And as I mentioned before in some of the other episodes, insights are what lead to ideas that lead to commercial innovations. And when we go looking for insights, a really good metaphor to, I guess, become mindful of is that an insight is a bit like going fishing. Now, the fish is what we want to eat and catch. The fish are kind of like the ideas and the innovations. But insights is about telling us where the fish are. So commercial fishermen will use something like a depth sounder. Now the depth sounder sends out sonar signals and bounces it back and it says, here's where the fish are. It doesn't catch the fish for you, but it tells you this is where the fish are. So if you're wondering what insights are, this is what it's about. It's trying to find out where those big fish are so we can create those commercial ideas to take them to market for great commercial gain. And futurists. Now, what is a futurist, you might be thinking? If you haven't heard of the term before, essentially a futurist is a bit like a Nostradamus meets someone like Steve Jobs when he was alive. And that is that they have an uncanny ability to look into what's an upcoming trend before it even becomes known to the major population, so that you can use that advice in terms of making strategic decisions as to what to do next. Essentially, it's like the modern day soothsayer. And I'm sure you've come across a number of futurists in your own sort of journeys. Say, for example, police associations use futurists. So they look at futurists to identify what suburbs might be potential crime spots. They look at emerging crimes and how that's going to change so that they can target their policing around those different areas. An organisation like Qantas, huge airline, use futurists to work out where we're going to be travelling in the next 10 years, the number of people that are going to be on these planes, and the number of planes that they're going to need to purchase it. Insurance companies use futurists as well to try and work out what are upcoming trends in terms of whether it's environmental or storm disasters and the things like that, crime waves, you name it, you can do it. Even things like fashion houses use trend futurists to look at things. Colour stylists use things like colour futurists to look at what's the next colour that's going to be coming up in the next 6 or 12 months. And again, I think I might have mentioned I'm a bit of a fan of Tom Cruise. If you've seen The Minority Report, back in the day, it was a huge science fiction super hit. That was used again. They consulted with futurists to look at what kind of technology was coming up. And if you actually watch that movie, you'll see a lot of that technology has almost become common knowledge and common practice in today's world. So this is why I'm pretty excited about thinking and innovating like a futurist. And so one of the things that we're going to do and why we really want to innovate like a futurist is that there are 3 core reasons for it. The first one is that if we can anticipate what the future holds for us, then we can innovate for the future. If we don't know what's coming up, it's hard to create a product. We might create a product or a service that just becomes irrelevant. Or perhaps a new need and desire has come up by our customers or our clients and we fully missed it and we're still selling something that used to work 5 years ago, but it's not working anymore. The second reason why we should really innovate like a futurist is that it enables us to create future scenarios and strategies that enable to deal with the impacts and the changes of emerging trends. Essentially, it enables us to minimize damage and to maximize the opportunities that exist out there. And thirdly, what it enables us to do is to really anticipate what a customer demands before they ask for it. Now that sounds kind of creepy, but that's the really cool thing. If we can work out what our customer is going to want in 12 months' time before they even know it, and we've already created a product or a service for it, hey, it's going to be really easy to roll in the money by creating that great product and service and just deliver whatever it is. So there are 3 reasons why we want to innovate like a futurist. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about, I guess probably give you a commercial example of a futurist. So let's talk about water. I'm sure we all know what water is. And water nowadays is such a big retail market, but it wasn't always that situation. And one of the reasons why it wasn't always that situation was that we were buying soft drinks. And there was a futurist who was a big influencer in the decision to help move a lot of people towards purchasing more water. Well, she wasn't the person that said you should drink more water, but she realized it was an emerging trend. So the woman I'm talking about is a futurist by the name of Faith Popcorn. Yes, it's her real name. She changed it by deed poll a number of years ago. And essentially she has, I guess an agency with thousands of people that are scanning through to look for emerging trends. And she was engaged by Coca-Cola to look at what are some of the things that were emerging that might be competing with their market. And she said, water is the one. And I'm sure you'll know if you actually look in whatever country you might be, I'm sure that the major water that you can buy in 7-Elevens and supermarkets that's out there, bottled water, is owned by Coca-Cola. So futurists can help you make good commercial decisions to capitalize on a market before your competition even know about it. And one of the things that Faith Popcorn did amazingly well, it's hard to say that name without having a giggle, is that she was really good at scanning. And as I mentioned, she had a network of people that would scan stuff. And so the first technique that a futurist uses is scanning. And so what scanning is all about essentially is about looking at what is happening out there in the wider world in terms of emerging trends. And how do we pick those trends and then make some sense of it. And most futurists call this technique environmental scanning. And there is an acronym that we use for it, which is called STEEP. Now, STEEP is something that has been around for a lot of years. And it's almost so simple that some people think, really, is this a tool that can be used? And so the acronym is based on different areas of where we actually want to do our environmental scanning. The first one of these areas is around the S, which is for socio-cultural trends. And when we think about socio-cultural trends, what we want to do is let's go scanning for socio-cultural trends that might have an impact on our business or on our customer in the coming year or 2 years ahead. That's what socio-cultural is about. Socio-cultural trends might be, say, for example, it could be relating to geopolitics where there's wars going on. There might be an increase in immigration. It might be a certain time of year. It might be certain rituals. A good way to think about culture really is it's based down to rituals that people are doing, engaging in. Then we have technological. And technological can also include the field of science. So technological trends might include, say, for example, the proliferation of smart devices. It might be the reduction in the number of desktop computers. It might be the advancement in genomic profiling. It might be increase in, increased, what would you call them, specific targeted prescriptions. It could be something to do with, anything, the speed of the internet. All of those technology things are trends that are worth being mindful of. The next trend that's really popular to investigate is what we call our environmental trends. Now, some of you might be thinking, really, environmental trends? Now, environment doesn't always have to be the physical green environment. It could be a social environment. It could be a work environment. It could be the home environment, but thinking about the spaces and places that surround us in different situations. It could be the built environment. It could be the urban environment. It could be the suburban environment. Again, thinking about our surrounds. The next area that we want to go scanning in is the economic or economical emerging trends. Emerging trends in the economy might be, say, for example, perhaps there's a new tax that's being introduced. Perhaps it's a plunge in the share prices that might be happening. It could be a trend in terms of interest rates that are dropping. All of those different areas. It can be both macro and it can be micro. They're both areas that we want to be mindful of when it comes to scanning. And then the final area that we want to look at in terms of when it comes to scanning is what we call our political emerging trends. And so political emerging trends could be perhaps there's a new government election that's about to happen. It might be a new elected government that's happening overseas in a country nearby. It could be something in a local government. It could be, a local council or a local municipality that you live in. Anything that relates to politics. Could be a different political party that might relate to a lobby group that might be making movements around those different areas. All of these things are things that we want to be mindful of. And as a futurist, our role is to look for emerging trends by scanning different areas. So you might be thinking, well, what do we scan? And this is what I love about this technique is, we can go and look in our computers and pull up, all kinds of things. But I've found from experience, one of the best ways we can get energized by this is actually to go old school and pull out things like newspapers. So what I'm going to do in ways of explaining this, how to innovate like a futurist, is we're actually going to do some of the futurist skills and tools and techniques, because that way you'll really understand how to replicate it back for your own business and your own organization. So to start with, what I would suggest is when you do this, you might allow yourself, an hour or so to do it, and to grab yourself copies of newspapers. They don't have to be, exactly today's newspaper. They could be anything in the last couple of weeks. Newspapers, magazines, industry papers, industry magazines, could be white papers and the sort. What we don't want to do is get so focused that we're just worrying specifically about our little business. So let's say, for example, if I'm working as an accountant and work with other accountants, and that's our business, that's our focus. I don't just want to focus on being an accountant. I want to be mindful of what's it like for our customers. Our customers could be white-collared, knowledge workers, or it could be blue-collared workers, or it could be all kinds of different types of small businesses. We want to be fairly generic with our stuff. At the same time, sure, we can use a couple of specific tailored documents or a research material in order to come up with some good scanning knowledge. So first thing is to collect as many of these things as possible. The next thing that we want to do then is to grab some post-it notes.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.